Hey up, it's Klye here. Look at my horse. My horse is amazing. This is D-Horse. He's the first buddy we get, and we even start the first real mission while riding on his back. But as the game goes on, we get access to other buddies, and they do a lot more than he does, so he quickly gets sidelined, unfortunately. So, I've been wondering, what if we stuck with our horse and played the whole game on the back of our trusty steed? Can you beat Metal Gear Solid V, always riding D-Horse? No, because missions don't start on D-Horse, and to trigger certain events we'll need to hop off him for a moment, so we'll never be truly fully glued to his back. But we've never let facts get in the way of a good time. Facts do not exist. There's only interpretations. We don't get D-Horse immediately after waking up from a coma, which makes sense, I suppose. But once we escape the hospital, Ocelot's here and he's riding D-Horse. So we get our horse a few minutes after waking up from a coma. Not bad. Now all we have to do is ride him away while we fend off the man on fire. D-Horse is scared of fire, so it's always worth making sure that Volgin never lands any hits. After that we start mission 1, which, as I say, when it begins, we're on the back of D-Horse already, so we're off to a good start. Actually though, I wonder where Ocelot's horse went. We never see that horse again. Interesting. Anyway, D-Horse. D-Horse himself is quite minimalistic in terms of abilities. He's basically just used for travel. But he definitely has some tricks up his hooves, so we're going to use him to the fullest. The sheer fact that we can use our own weapons while we ride him gives us like 1,000 ways we could win, but we do have some other options to explore. The most interesting of these options is stealth. Now you might not think it, but D-Horse is incredibly sneaky. If we slink down the side of him, we can get really close to enemies. A lot closer than you might think. D-Horse is an absolute master of infiltration. It makes getting to Kaz incredibly swift. But as I say, we do have to get off D-Horse on occasion. D-Horse doesn't like some buildings. Not all buildings, but some. So when it comes to those buildings he doesn't like, D-Horse is going to get a very brief moment of respite. Once we save Kazuhira, we can put him on D-Horse's Aris, but having someone on D-Horse means he kinda loses his stealth powers. Not entirely, but they do get a lot weaker. So we're going to have to be a lot more careful and move with a bit more precision, especially when it comes to the skulls. Now they might be super soldiers, but they're actually a little bit thick. So all we have to do is wait for him to walk across the bridge and then go down the side. That's it, you just have to wait and then you win. Maybe they shouldn't have put up all that mist, and then they might have actually been able to see us. Either way, once we're clear, D-Horse can run free, and if you wiggle your stick a little bit and slap the reins, D-Horse seems to ignore a lot of the terrain that would normally slow him down. I'm not sure if that's placebo or not, it might be, but it's something I've always enjoyed doing. Now you'd think that because we're safe, we can just run out of the hot zone with Kaz on D-Horse's Aris. But no, that doesn't count for this mission. For story purposes, you have to get on the chopper. There's a few other missions that have this restriction, but we'll get to those in a bit. For now, we just have to watch D-Horse enjoy his balloon ride. Perfect stealth, no kills, no tracers, while almost completely on horseback. That's nice. What's not so nice is that D-Horse isn't allowed on Mother Base for some reason. It makes me curious where the horses are kept, especially considering we don't have the animal conservation platform yet, so where's the stables? Something to ponder while we fist these men. After that we get full access to D-Horse, so it's time to see what he's truly capable of. For mission 3, A Hero's Way, we need to take out a dude in an outpost. Now we could just sit up here on the back of D-Horse and snipe him, but let's try and beat these missions in some more interesting ways. D-Horse can do a lot of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to take this guy out without anybody noticing. If we go in at night, we can go around the rim of the outpost and get inside without arousing anyone. Because we're here at night, once the commander stopped yapping to his squad, he goes inside the building. If we then get D-Horse to bait him with some clippy clops, he'll come outside to check on the noise, and that's when we strike. Ramming people with D-Horse knocks them out, so if we wanted to, we could get off D-Horse now, pick up this guy, put him on the back of D-Horse, and then ride him out of the hot zone. We could. However, unless the game explicitly forces us off of D-Horse, we're not getting off. We're going to keep ramming this man. It's a bit tricky since here is in a corner, but if we keep ramming him, then the objective will be complete, purely using D-Horse, and while being completely stealthy. Ignore the corpse. And even though D-Horse rammed that guy earlier, we still got perfect stealth, no kills. I find that very interesting. I suppose technically, yeah, we didn't kill anyone. I reckon we can put that to good use. After that we can start to get gear for D-Horse, and while it's mostly cosmetic, the battle dress improves his defense. Not by much, but it's something. It'll be nice to change his look every so often. For mission 4, C2W, we need to blow up some radio gear, and D-Horse unfortunately can't do that by himself. But because we can use weapons while on his back, we can sneak into the outpost, toss a boom ball through the window hole, and then sneak away. It's not a particularly creative solution, but mission 5 is going to be absolute hell, so we're going to appreciate these easy missions in a minute. But we can't do mission 5 just yet, we need a special weapon. Thankfully, we have access to the Fulton launcher, so we can do mission 6, Where Do the Bees Sleep, using that Fulton launcher. We can use this to snipe everyone we see and bring them back to Mother Base. It is a bit loud and people tend to notice the huge plumes of gas, but D-Horse is our shield. We can actually use him to dodge bullets and take out entire bases just by gassing people. It is possible to use this launcher and be stealthy, but we'll get to that in a bit. Sadly, the Fulton launcher doesn't work on prisoners. This limitation definitely won't be a massive problem throughout the entire challenge or anything. Definitely not. Anyway, when it comes to the actual mission objective, D-Horse likes the cave and he likes the building inside the cave, but we need to get off D-Horse to pick up the Honeybee. Very brief, but we still had to get off. The same goes for when the skulls arrive. After the cutscene, we're on foot, but D-Horse is right here, so we can get on him and ride away. The skulls are too slow and they can't keep up with D-Horse. I'm really starting to think that these guys might actually not be that much of a threat. Unfortunately, once again, this is one of those missions where we can't ride D-Horse out of the zone. We need to get on Pequod or ride a crate out of the mission or whatever. Either way, this is one of those missions where escaping by land isn't allowed, for some reason. So, once again, we need to hop off D-Horse and get in Pequod. For this one mission alone, we had to get off D-Horse 3 times. That's not particularly great, is it? What is great though, is that now we're good friends with D-Horse, which means, like any good friend, we can command him to take a shit. So we'll put that to good use in a minute. We can also customize him as well. There's not a great deal of options really, it's mostly just colours, and if you choose a darker colour, you get to change his face markings and leg markings, which is kinda cool. Although I mostly prefer to have him pure white, I prefer the white hair. What do you prefer? Do you play with any other colours of D-Horse? Right then, back to mission 5, Over the Fence. Since we collected all those men in mission 6, we now have enough staff for our new gun, so we're not going to bother ballooning all these dudes. We're going to ride into town with the big iron on our hip. Red Dead Revolver Ocelot style. Definitely not the most ideal way to do this, but I want to be a cowboy, baby. After all that excitement, we have to blow the lock off the door with a grenade and then get D-Horse to push the door open. Once we're in here, we have our target. Now, once again, we could just get off D-Horse, put him on the back, and then ride out to freedom. That's what someone with a brain would do. But we want to stay on the horse, don't we? So what we're going to do is we're going to nudge this man with inflatables so we can get him into position, and then we're going to blow him, using our newly made blowgun. When you blow people, they don't take damage, and they'll move in the direction that you blow them. Using this technique, we can push this man wherever we want. And if you push him out of the mission zone, he's considered safe, and the mission is complete. But the end of the mission is quite far away. As I say though, we want to stay on the horse. So, this is something we're just going to have to do. As you can imagine, this takes a very, very, very long time. And lots of ammo drops. Lucky for me, I had some stuff I'd been meaning to watch, so this was the perfect time to do that. I did have to take a few breaks every so often. My horse needed some Charlie. But after 2 days in the desert sun, we push him out of the mission zone and the mission is complete. 5 hours, almost 7,000 shots, and with a D rank, I'm alright with a D. But this isn't the last time we have to do this kind of thing. Far from it. For mission 7, Red Brass, we could just Fulton launcher the commanders, but D-Horse has some armor now, so we can be a little bit more aggressive. If we get D-Horse to poo in the road, the car that one of the commanders drives in on will hit the shit and spin out. When that happens, we have a few seconds to get in there, and we can charge in and knock them all out of the car. It's a little bit fiddly to do, but with some effort we can knock them all out of the car. And if we keep running back and forth, we can charge over them and hoof these guys up. When the other commander comes down the road, we use the same technique again. Shit skid the car and take out the men. Once we've crushed the second commander, we move on to the last one. Although he's a little bit trickier since he's upstairs in the base, so we're going to need to wait for the right moment. But when we find it, we can strike and take him down. We also need to be fairly quick here as well, because this base has a lot of patrols going on, so once he was writhing around on the floor, that means he only has about 30 seconds left to live, which allows us to sneak away and complete the mission while the soldiers come and investigate all that noise. D-Horse is an absolute beast. For mission 8, Occupation Forces, we need to destroy 2 tanks and a man. As we know, D-Horse doesn't have any destructive capabilities, so we're going to have to do that bit for him, which, given the fact we can use missile launchers while riding him, it means we can do these kind of missions with relative ease. And because D-Horse is an expert rammer, it makes human targets quite easy as well. The same goes for mission 9, back up, back down. Easy enough just to rocket all the targets. Some missions like this just don't have very interesting solutions. Sometimes we just gotta do what's necessary. Although, there is a prisoner in this mission who can upgrade D-Horse's battle dress, and we can save him in a very easy and interesting way. So we're gonna do that. All we have to do is ride to the top of the map and out of the mission zone, but not too far, take a shit in the road and then wait. Once we take out 2 APCs, the prisoner comes in on a car. They skid on the shit and then we can take out the soldiers. Now all we have to do is sit here and take out the rest of the vehicles that show up, which with a big missile launcher is fairly easy. Once that's done, we just have to walk out of the hot zone and the mission is complete. Since both we and the prisoner are out of the hot zone when the mission's done, the guy in the car automatically gets extracted. But speaking of saving prisoners, mission 10, Angel with Broken Wings. There's a prisoner in a car we need to save and he's guarded by an APC, but that's nothing that a missile launcher can't solve. We can then race to the road that the car takes and then cowboy the soldiers. Alternatively, we could have rammed them out the car, but you know, cowboy baby. You know how it goes. Now then, it may be possible to do something very interesting here, because sometimes when you hit the car, it'll shift and move around a bit. So if you could angle it right, ideally so that you're ramming the front of the car, you could, in theory, knock Malik all the way out of the map just by hitting the car. As I say, in theory, because in all likelihood, the car's going to do a sick flip, which is worth a few points, but it throws him out of the car, and he's on his arse. Lucky for us, I brought my blower with me, and even luckier for us, it's basically a straight line to the finish, so this will be so much simpler. Even so, this is going to take another 5 hours. At least I got to finish that video I was watching. When it comes to mission 11, Cloaked in Silence, funnily enough, you can actually beat Quiet with D-Horse. I never expected this to be a viable option, but if you can dodge her shots from the start and then lure her down from her perch with a magazine, ideally into a place where she's on the ground, you can just ram her with D-Horse and knock her down. And you only need to do that twice and you win. D-Horse really is an amazing horse. The trouble is, if we go up to Quiet now, we get put into a cutscene that forces us off of D-Horse. We'll also never be able to play Quiet's mission anyway, since we'd need to build her bond, which means swapping out D-Horse. And even in a Quiet exit, you can't use D-Horse. So that's not happening. We're just going to leave Quiet here. The fact that D-Horse can even beat Quiet is good enough for me. An interesting thing I've noticed riding D-Horse so much is that sometimes when you jump over something, you'll get a weird kinda double speed buff thing. I tried a few times to trigger it manually, but I could never do it. But when I'm not trying, all of a sudden I hit the right spot and D-Horse got the buff. So here it is. It seems to make all animations twice as fast, apart from the sprint, only the walk-in and the canter. If you know how to trigger this on purpose every single time, then please do let me know. As far as I can ascertain, it happens when you jump over very small things, but it seems mostly random when it happens. Still, it's a fun little thing. Fun time's over though, because now we have mission 12, Hellbound. The mission that always causes problems in challenge runs. D-Horse can't get into the initial area even when we whistle for him. He gets stuck on the gate, so we're gonna have to walk to him. And that's just the beginning of our problems. We can sneak out of the power plant, that's fine, we know D-Horse is good at stealth, and we even get to do some ramming if we want to, which we do. Plus, it's a lovely gallop to the central base camp, but once we get there, we have a lot of issues. It's all well and good sneaking into the base camp on the back of D-Horse. Sneaking with D-Horse is actually quite fun, if I'm honest, but the fun quickly subsides when it comes to big bastard himself, Huey Emmerich. He's inside a building, which is no good, and while we do get to do some ramming, to get inside this hangar, we need to get off D-Horse. Even though this hangar's massive, D-Horse isn't allowed inside for some reason. After the cutscene, Huey is already on our shoulders, so we can just walk outside and chuck him on D-Horse's Aris. I even managed to get the double speed buff again on the way out, which is amazing. Having that double speed is so good, I just wish I knew how to trigger it on purpose. Anyway, now we have the issue of Sahalanthropus, which, after the cutscene, forces us off of D-Horse. So we need to put Huey back on D-Horse and then make our escape. And once again, this is one of those missions that don't give you any alternate way out. You can't just ride D-Horse out of the map and escape. You absolutely always have to put Huey on the chopper and fly away. Which means that to finish this mission, we have to get off D-Horse again. This one mission alone has forced us to use our legs at least 4 times. Ironic, considering this is Huey's mission. Every time I play this game, I dislike this guy more and more. For mission 13, Pitch Dark, we start the mission without D-Horse nearby, but D-Horse is magic. If we look away and then whistle, he'll teleport to us. Told you, absolute magic. But this is another mission that requires destruction. We need to blow up an oil tank, and we also need to finger a button inside a building, which unfortunately means that D-Horse doesn't really have much use in this mission. So while we could just charge in and finish the mission in a few minutes, I decided against that because I want a new revolver. And to get a new revolver, we're going to need more men. So I sat on the hill and ballooned everyone. Let's hope that not many of these people speak Kikongo. Once the area is clear, we can calmly walk in, gently nudge the lock off the door, and then get D-Horse to open it for us. But as I say, he's not allowed inside this building, so we're going to have to get off D-Horse and finger the button ourselves. After that, we can have a little ride to the oil tank and then toss a blower-upperer. Bit of a shame that D-Horse didn't have much to do in this mission, but I suppose riding away from the explosion's kinda cool. Mission 14, Lingua Franca, is a mission we can do while completely on D-Horse though, so that's good. But it is a prisoner rescue mission, so you know what that means. We're gonna have to blow someone again. Mercifully, it's not an insane distance. It actually only took me about 2 hours, but even so, that's still pretty bad, innit? For mission 15, Footprints of Phantoms, it's another destructive mission. So we can do this in a few ways, but I just thought let's just climb up Pride Rock and toss some boom balls. Simple, but effective. Mission 16, Traitor's Caravan. We need to extract a truck. So to get to where the truck is, we're going to blow the gate open and slip into the fenced off area. That way, we can stay hidden when the skulls emerge from the truck. If we then go around the airport to the other side, we can lure the skulls away and get them inside the airport. While they're stuck in customs, we can go for the truck. Unfortunately, D-Horse doesn't have the horsepower to push the truck, so we're going to have to get off. Since we've not been saving any of the optional prisoners bar that one dude, we don't have access to the cargo balloon Fulton yet, so the only way out is to drive the truck away. But if we use the magic whistle, D-Horse can get in the back of the truck with us. So while we might not be riding D-Horse, he's riding with us, which I'm sure you'll agree is just as good. Mission 17, Rescue the Intel Agents. The name of the mission kind of gives it away, but yeah, this is another prisoner rescue mission. But this mission's on a hidden timer, so what we're going to do is we're going to go around and balloon everyone again. Doing that means we can stealthily get rid of the timer and increase our staff, and because there's no timer, we can spend the rest of the day blowing these prisoners. One of them's in a little covered area, so while we can get down in there with him, the area is a little bit too tight and we can't blow him. But thankfully, there's some gaps in the wood that's covering him, so if we aim in first person, we can blow through the slits and push him out of the hole. The other prisoner's in a far more easily accessible area, so he's a lot less of an issue. But in this mission, we have another prisoner who can upgrade D-Horse's battle dress to its final form. However, he's inside a building, so it would be really fiddly trying to get him out, especially since D-Horse can't get in the building. Now, I'm sure we could throw some shit in there and manage to shift him around after a few hours of pissing about, but we've already got 2 prisoners we need to save. Adding a third into the mix would just make this even longer than it needs to be. So, begrudgingly, I decided not to go for this guy. Bit of a shame, I know, I kinda would've liked to have got all of D-Horse's stuff, but, you know, it's fine, I suppose. The fact that we have to save these 2 dudes is annoying enough. Ideally, we try and get them close together and try and blow them equally, mostly because we have to push them quite far out of the mission zone, and if you go too far out, then it fails the mission. So keeping them together means we don't run into that problem. You want to try and get him into a sort of 6 and 9 position. That's always a good one. Another 5 hours of blowing 2 dudes and we win. And because we used the Fulton launcher, we got perfect stealth, which means we got a B rank. They're really generous with the ranks in this game, aren't they? Mission 18, Blood Runs Deep, one of my least favourite missions. We can take out the first target with a Fulton rocket, that's easy enough, along with the rest of the soldiers in the area as well, which should give us enough people to get a new revolver soon, so that's nice. But then we have an area that D-Horse isn't allowed in. He can't go inside this cave, so we're going to have to go in there by ourselves. In here, we have the universal problem, children. But since we're in here, we might as well pick up the injured kid, and the diamonds, of course. And once we're outside, we can put the kid on D-Horse. And while the kids run to the LZ, we can Fulton launch the new soldiers that spawn in. It's all fairly decent so far, besides having to get off D-Horse that one time. However, when the kids get to the LZ, they stop. And this is where you're supposed to pick them up and then put them on P-Quad. Obviously, we're not getting off D-Horse, so that's not happening. But if we want to save these kids and finish the mission, we have to blast them out of the area. And if we want to do that, we're in for some real shit. 2 of the kids don't react to a shotgun blast, but it doesn't mean we're stuck, because after 3 minutes, they all recover and sit up. Doing that means we knocked them out of their animation, and now they're all susceptible to being knocked back. But herein lies the issue. We can knock them all back, but we need to wait 3 minutes between every shot, and the edge of the mission zone is bloody miles away. So once again, this was another lengthy mission. And just in case you're wondering, no, you can't Fulton launch the kids. If only.
A up. It's Klye here. For some reason, Klye completely forgot about the fact you can literally just ride D-Horse out of the zone with the one kid on his Aris and leave all the other kids behind. It must be all that wormwood he has been smoking, among other things. Anyway, he loves shooting kids. I mean, who doesn't? So I'm sure he was happy to do this. Let's get back to Klye now to hear how happy and optimistic he is to spend hours out of his life shooting video game children.
All of these prisoner rescue missions gave me a lot of time to reflect on the ever-moving sands of time and how life's hourglass is constantly out of reach. There's no way for us to reach out and grab the hourglass and turn it over and go again. Time flows ever downwards, and our only option is to watch it sink away until there's nothing left. Fortunately, I had some very interesting videos to watch to take my mind off all that. Another 5 hours go by and it's mission complete. Just how Foxhound would have wanted it done, I'm sure. Thankfully, mission 19 on the trail is a mission we can do in a couple of minutes. All we have to do is Fulton or blow up a dude and we win. You know, sometimes being quick is a good thing. I suppose we could have ran in there with D-Horse as well, but there's too many dudes and D-Horse would have definitely got shot, so I don't want that to happen. Mission 20, Voices, is a little bit more exciting though. D-Horse can sneak pretty much all the way into this mission. It does require a bit of patience and some finesse, but it can be done. I think the mist helps a lot here, but the trickiest part is when we have to go up and around the side of the area with the tent. We're a little bit too close and D-Horse is kinda noisy, so we're gonna need to bait this guy around the tent and then go around ourselves to get away from him. But even after all our efforts, D-Horse can't get over the fallen tree. There's a kind of invisible wall with this tree. I don't know, it seems like everybody has trouble getting over here. So we're going to have to get off and crawl through. But once we're through and we're in the tunnel, we can whistle for D-Horse and he'll emerge from the shining light like the angel he is. So it's not too bad. Saying that though, we have another one of those buildings that D-Horse doesn't like. There's no way to get him inside here. Well, actually, there is a way to get him inside, but that method would mean that we have to get off D-Horse to do it. And even if we did get him inside, we'd have to keep getting off him to open up the curtains, so it's not really worth bothering on this occasion, since we could just get off D-Horse one time rather than like 4. So for now, we'll just go and find the man on fire. There he is. Once we make it back to D-Horse, we have quite a few options here. But the best option for us would be to bait him near the pool, give him a quick blast from the past and then blow the gas to knock him into the pool. And for good measure, I squirted on him as well. And since we beat Volgin this way without moving too far out of the mission, we can just ride through the open gate and through the tunnel and out of the mission zone. Before we do mission 21, mission 22 appears as an emergency mission. But this is another mission that's at Mother Base, so there's no D-Horse. But we can do this mission in a couple of seconds because we have our trusty Fulton launcher. And D-Horse is with us in spirit. Right then, mission 21, the war economy. We could use the Fulton launcher again, but we've been doing that loads, and I think we have enough staff now, so no more horsing around. We're going to go full aggro. Once we slip inside the airport, we're going to go to the hangar. This is a fantastic place to ambush our target. But the hangar is guarded by walker gears, so we're going to have to take these guys out first. Luckily for us, D-Horse can knock people out of walkers, but our biggest enemy in this mission is the chopper. Even if we're hugging D-Horse's side, the chopper can still see us, so we have to keep an eye out for that while we try and take out these walker gear dudes. But once they're taken care of, we can hide in the hangar and under the plane. When our target arrives, we can let them have their little chat, and then when they start to move to the front towards the truck, we strike. Since we're inside this hangar, we've got a lot of cover to work with, so nobody can see us, not even the chopper. This gives us plenty of room to work with and gives us all the run-ups we need to squish these boys. I may have also gone up to them and got D-Horse to take a plop on them. We took a couple of hits for it, but I think it's worth it, even if we do have a bloody bum. After that, we just slip away the same way we came in, like nothing happened, and perfect stealth, no kills. I love how that works. Sad times now though, because mission 23 is the White Mamba, which is a mission full of kids. So we can't be aggressive. D-Horse insta-kills kids. D-Horse also isn't allowed on Eli's boat, so we can't fight Eli with a horse. The best we can do is trank the kids and then snipe Liquid from horseback. It's a bit shite. And even shiter is that we have to get Eli to the chopper, and that means we have to get on his boat, which means getting off of D-Horse, and then we have to carry Eli. D-Horse won't even accept Eli on his Aris. This mission, for some reason, really hates horses. Honestly, I would have loved to have gone on a horse ride with Liquid. Maybe go hunting some jackals with him, but I suppose it was never meant to be. Good times now though, because mission 24 is close contact, and this mission is for us to save 2 prisoners. So you know what that means. That's right, the most enjoyable aspect of this challenge rears its head once again. Well, I suppose this time around at least we get to blow a woman, which makes a nice change. And the end of the mission's not miles and miles away, so that's alright I guess. We also get to push the prisoners through a gate, so, you know, that's fun. This one actually wasn't that bad, it only took about 3 hours. You know, I think my metric of what's good and bad has slightly been skewed during this challenge. Mission 25, Aim True Ye Vengeful, is another mission full of kids, and our main target is just a random kid with a beret. This mission would be incredibly annoying, but thankfully, we can use the Fulton launcher on the kids, since these guys are technically soldiers. You don't even need to have the child Fulton upgrade. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's just how it works. So I'm not complaining, but we're not done yet because the last objective is to save a prisoner. What a surprise. Mercifully, the end of the mission's quite close by, so this one only took me about an hour or so. Mission 26, Hunting Down, was a lot more fun. We need to take out a dude, and he's being guarded by a group of soldiers. Because we saved all those soldiers earlier, we now have access to the Tornado revolver and a lot of shotguns. So after all that bollocks with the prisoners, this was a much needed change of pace for me. I mean, you tell me, who doesn't love riding a horse and shooting Old West style guns? Mate, it's a fantastic feeling, especially that thunk of the sawn off. That was a lovely mission. Mission 27, Root Cause. Guess what? It's another prisoner rescue mission. Yay. I gotta tell you, in all that excitement, I kinda forgot about these missions. But now it's back to this. If we wait outside the outpost for the guy to drive down the road, then he'll fall out of the truck, which means we can now blast him with the blower. But this guy is a unique-ish prisoner, since he's not tied up here. So like the kids, he'll get blown back. However, if we do it this way, it takes him 10 minutes to get back up. 10 minutes. That is pure shite. Technically possible, but bollocks to that. We're gonna go cowboy again. If we can sneakily rush in, we can get to the prisoner quick and he won't get inside the truck, and that means he stays tied up and laid down on the floor. And since we got to him stealthily, that gives us as much time as we could ever need to go around and use our revolver on these goons. I even managed to somehow take out all the soldiers while being stealthy. Loud, lethal stealth. My favourite. But of course, the fun quickly ends and now we have the usual thing of blowing the man out of the mission. It's actually not that far away though, so it's really not that bad. Annoyingly though, a random jackal ran up right as the mission was about to end and killed the dude. So I had to do all of that again. Lovely. If only Liquid would have accepted that horse ride with us, we could have been here and took out all the jackals. It's a good job this mission's only like half an hour or so. But this time around, I made sure to shoot the jackal. Non-lethally though, of course, I'm not a monster. Mission 28 is Code Talker. This is our one and only encounter with the sniper skulls. But as we know, the skulls aren't actually that much of a threat. And D-Horse is Andalusian, so he can easily climb up these cliffs and go around. Once again, the skulls might actually not be that super because we can actually walk right behind these ladies and they have absolutely no clue we're even here. The regular soldiers have far better awareness than the super soldiers do. It's shockingly easy to slip past the skulls. Once we make it to the mansion, we just need to go around and then get to the door. But unfortunately, D-Horse isn't allowed inside the house. So we're going to have to go in there solo. Once we puff on Code Talker's pipe, we have him on our shoulders, and since we didn't take out the skulls, now everyone's a puppet. So, for Code Talker's protection, I popped these guys. Purely for Code Talker's protection, not because I enjoy all the killing. Definitely not. Once they're down, we go outside and put Code Talker onto D-Horse's Aris. And now we can just follow the stream out of the mission. Although I suppose if I didn't shoot those guys, this would have technically been no tracers, right? Interesting. Even interestinglier, which is a word, the cutscene after this mission shows that we're putting Code Talker onto P-Quad, and the mission after this starts on the chopper every time. So that means that after this mission, we definitely fly away on P-Quad. But here's where the interesting thing comes in. We're allowed to run Code Talker out of the mission zone. We don't have to get off and put him on the chopper. It makes me wonder why they couldn't have allowed us to do that for all those other missions that force you to get on the chopper. This is a mission that you'd fully expect to follow that rule, but it just doesn't. How strange. Almost as strange as seeing Code Talker's car separate from his heart at the end of the mission. Spooky. Mission 29, Metallic Archaea. We finally have to fight the skulls now, and it turns out that D-Horse can ram them. It's really inconsistent because more often than not they'll just teleport away, but since it is possible to do, I really wanted to see if D-Horse could do this all by himself. I found that right after they do an Archaea throw, they're open for a ram. They also seem susceptible to a ram when they're shooting their gun, so baiting these attacks is crucial. D-Horse doesn't deal much damage, so as you can imagine, this took quite a while. It took about half an hour just to take out one skull. But the fewer skulls we have to fight, the easier it gets because we don't have to manage so many enemies at once. However, the last two skulls don't use the Archaea throw, and they love to use Harden. So this last bit is purely down to hoping they pull out a gun and we get a lucky ram. These guys were real pricks. But eventually, after a few hours, we can run through them and beat them. That took forever. Once we make it back to Code Talker, we need to get him to the new chopper. Luckily for us, I brought my blower with me, so you know what we do next. But this is another guy that takes 10 minutes per blow. I'd been fighting the skulls for like 2 hours, so another hour and a half just blowing an old dude is absolutely fine. We don't need to blow him all the way to the LZ, just close enough. And once he's in range, we can just trot to the chopper and it completes the mission. Definitely not the best way to do this mission, but the fact that D-Horse can even beat the skulls is absolutely insane. Mission 30 is Skullface. We need to infiltrate a place called OKB0, and just to show that D-Horse is the absolute pinnacle of stealth infiltration, we're going to do this completely stealthy and with no tracers. Here's how we do it. We want to go up the right side of the area first while ducked down to D-Horse's right hand side. There's a few claymores here, so we want to try and avoid those as well, and then there's a little slope that's at a slight angle. If we follow that angle, we can make D-Horse jump over this little wall. Now there's another claymore after this wall, but if we stick to the right all the way through, we can make it all the way around without being caught and without exploding any of the claymores. Once we get to the gate, we just need to wait for this one guy to move on, and then we can slowly sidle up to the gate itself. And when we're here, we're going to spin the camera around and we're going to look for the walker gear. He might be a little bit hard to see depending on the angle, but if you can just catch a glimpse of him, that's all you need. Once the guy on the walker gear has turned around, we need to make a break for it and go around to the right hand side again. There's a walled off area here and we need to get to that place as quick as we possibly can. because there's a sniper nearby, and if the timing is off, he'll definitely see us. He might only catch a very brief glimpse of you though, so you might be okay. This time around though, he didn't see us at all. Now that we're in the walled off L-shaped area, we can just sit here and watch the sniper. When he does a little shufty move, we move up and we go around to the right hand side again. All we've got to do now is follow this guy. And that's the most difficult part over, because from here on in, it gets incredibly easy. If you've dropped in at 6 AM like I did, there's a very good chance that round about now, a sandstorm is going to show up, and this gives us a lot of freedom. We can basically just go all the way to the end. Almost all the way. There's still a little bit of finesse, but not as much. Once we pass the next gate, we have to turn to the right and do a little hop up this little ledge, and then we go around the right hand side of the crates and to the building. Once we go around that building, we'll see a tank, and this is when we swap sides on D-Horse. From here on in, we stick to the left. There's a guy on a walker gear who's guarding the stairs, but if we stick to the left and use the sandstorm to our advantage, we can daintily walk past him and go right up the stairs without anybody knowing we were even here. D-Horse is absolutely magnificent. Although he won't go through this door, which is a bit shite. But once we pass through the door, we can whistle for him and he'll immediately teleport to our location. He's a good boy, he's a good boy. And now we can ride him to Skullface. And the thing is, we can even skip the walking and the driving scene. D-Horse isn't involved in those, so for this playthrough, I don't care about them. They're getting skipped. And with that, we finish the mission with perfect stealth, no kills, and no tracers. For sure, the sandstorm definitely helped, but D-Horse played a major role in getting us through it so quickly and so easily. Just goes to show that even though you're on a horse, you can still be incredibly stealthy. I may or may not have also forgotten about upgrading D-Horse's battle dress until now, so yeah, I upgraded his armor. Still a little bit of a shame about the level 3 armor, but the level 2 armor looks really cool and it gives him a suit. If you've got the white D-Horse, it stands out a lot more, but given what the next mission is, I think this kind of colossal task is more suited to aggro. Mission 31 is Sahalanthropus. It would make sense to bring the missile launchers for this one, and possibly even some grenade launchers too. But no, you know what we do. It's time to bring back the cowboy. We're going to beat Sahalanthropus with a revolver and a double-barrel shotgun. Obviously, not the most effective method, but that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to challenge runs, isn't it? Having D-Horse makes dodging most of these attacks incredibly easy, although Sahalanthropus does tend to shoot a lot more of the bullets when we're moving so fast, so we're bound to take a few hits. So maybe I should have worn that new battle dress we just got, but it's fine. D-Horse can take it. He's incredibly tough. It takes a lot to bring D-Horse down. Although the interesting thing here is that we have to get close to Sahalanthropus to deal damage with our shotgun, but we can't get too close, otherwise his cock turns into a flamethrower. And as we know, D-Horse is not a fan of fire. But, you know, other than that, there's not really that much to it. We just dodge all the attacks and then blast Sally on our Mustang. Yeah, I know, he's Andalusian, not a Mustang, but when else am I going to get to say Mustang Sally in the same sentence? We also get to shoot a child in this mission as well, so that's always a good thing. And with that, we destroy Sahalanthropus and finish Chapter 1. Now we move on to Chapter 2, Race. Sadly, this isn't a horse race, which I think would have been quite good. This section of the game doesn't have that many missions, and a lot of them are repeat missions, but the repeat missions have a white dot next to them, which means they're optional. Which is good, because the subsistence missions means we can't bring D-Horse with us. So we're not going to do those. If D-Horse isn't there, then I don't care. Mission 32, To Know Too Much. Take a guess what this mission entails. If you guessed Prisoner Rescue Mission, you'd be correct. This guy is being hunted by walker gears, and some of those guys are heavily armoured. But D-Horse, he doesn't give two shites about armour. He can just charge right through. If we take out all of the dudes besides one, that one remaining guy will radio for a car, which means we can save ourselves a bit of time in the future. Not much time, admittedly, but time nonetheless. And once we've taken out all of the walkers, we just have to wait for the car to arrive. The driver gets out of the car to escort the prisoner, and this is where we slip away and do our thing. The driver's going to take the prisoner to La Majate Palace. That place has a few too many dudes in it, and we don't want to deal with all that, so what we're going to do, before he gets there, we're going to take a plop in the road. Once the driver goes over it, he skids on the shit, and then we make our move. D-Horse decided that he was going to jump over the car on our first attempt, but thankfully he got his Aris in gear and took out the driver eventually. With that guy sorted out, we can push the car for a bit. We can't be too harsh with our pushes though, because if we hit the prisoner too much, he'll die, and that's fission mailed. But I did manage to get some fairly decent pushes. Until, for some unknown reason, the doofus decided to flop himself out of the car. What an absolute turd. I was hoping we could knock him a bit further to cut down the time, but I guess he wanted to get blown. Thankfully, it's basically a straight line to the finish, so this one only took me about an hour and a half. V even dabbed. If we want to avoid the repeat missions, we're going to have to do some side ops now, and we can't really do any of the blueprint ones since they require us to get off D-Horse, but we can do any of the ones that are about human extractions. Ideally ones that are out in the open and with people who can be Fulton launched. Or killed. Like the MSF members, these guys can be saved with a Fulton launcher. Seeing these guys always rekindles my love for Peace Walker. I love Peace Walker. It's a fantastic game, more people should play Peace Walker. Where's all the Peace Walker challenge runs? I want to do some more of those in the future. Speaking of Peace Walker, we've got to do some very important side ops now. The first one is to get the AI pod, although it is inside a hangar. So while we do get to ram a man, D-Horse isn't allowed inside once again. But that's alright, because when we get inside, the AI pod launches itself back to Mother Base and it shoots out loads of fire. And that would have definitely scared D-Horse, so I'm glad he's outside for this. Collecting the AI pod unlocks the bandana, so we'll slap that on, might as well. It'll look nice flapping in the wind. Also, speaking of fire, our next side op is to collect the remains of the man on fire. D-Horse's nemesis. He's in the supply outpost guarded by a lot of soldiers, so we're going to go and take them all out. An exploding sphere is usually a good introduction. Now you can't actually use that many items when you're on the back of D-Horse, but we can pop pills. So I gobbled a load of pills and then showed the soldiers my big iron. And my boomstick. They even sent a helichopper after us, which is hilarious because D-Horse can easily outmaneuver a helichopper and the tornado can take it down with ease. With the final bullet in the cylinder as well. Very cinematic. Some might say absolute cinema. But once we're done with all that, we can go to Volgin, and unfortunately we do have to get off D-Horse to activate the cutscene. But before we do that, since this is the last time Volgin and D-Horse are going to meet, I let D-Horse get his final bit of revenge. D-Horse actually disappears in this cutscene, which I suppose is good because Volgin reanimates and we get to see his flaming horse. Although I have to admit it does look quite cool. And then it dies. As does Volgin. Again. That definitely wasn't a hallucination brought on by all the drugs I've been taking. Absolutely not, that definitely happened. Finishing that side up unlocks the Furycorn costume for D-Horse, which makes him look like a proper nightmare. It's a shame it doesn't come with any flame effects or any effect at all really, and it doesn't even give D-Horse any special moves. I think that would have been nice. Especially because this is like a really endgame thing, and D-Horse doesn't have any abilities himself, really. But then again, we've been doing pretty well so far without any special moves, so maybe D-Horse just doesn't need them. He's just that good all by himself. An interesting little detail about the Furycorn though is that the saddle is actually made out of some kind of MSF wreckage. If you look from behind, you can just about make out the MSF skull logo. I suppose it could be from Morpho, which is the chopper that V and Big Boss exploded on. Where do you reckon it's from? I don't suppose it particularly matters too much, but either way, pretty cool stuff. Anyway, for Eli's challenge, it takes place on Mother Base, so once again, no D-Horse. But we can bring our blowgun. And if we were riding D-Horse here, this is how we would have had to have fought Liquid anyway, so I suppose this is fairly accurate as to how it would have gone down. The blowgun is a very effective method as well. Liquid really didn't stand a chance. Sorry mate, you really are the punching bag of the series, aren't you? It's a shame, Liquid's so cool. Finishing this unlocks the kid rescue missions in a bit, so that'll be fun. But first, we need to do mission 35, Cursed Legacy. We need to extract some containers guarded by heavily armoured men, which means we're going to have to get off D-Horse to use the Fulton extraction. But that doesn't mean that D-Horse is useless. D-Horse can ram the heavily armoured men, which makes this mission incredibly easy. So while we might have to get off D-Horse to Fulton the cargo, at least we can still use D-Horse for something, you know? I somehow also managed to ram a dude and then jump over this rock, and the other guy had absolutely no clue what just happened. And then I got to ram him from behind for free. That was fun. But there we go, we have to get off D-Horse twice to finish this mission. But having him here was incredibly useful, to say the least. The same goes for mission 38, Extraordinary. We need to get off D-Horse to pick up the film, but we can still use him to great effect. we're going to get him to take a few plops in the road. This will be useful in a minute because if we play this right, we can do this mission with no traces. The film's being guarded by quite a lot of guards, so we just need to wait for the right time. But because of those turds, the car that's coming up the road is going to get stopped, which gives us just enough time to wait for the guy in the middle to make some space, and then once we have that space, we slip further in, get off D-Horse, unfortunately, but that's when we pick up the film. After that, we get back on D-Horse and slip away. Because we did it quick enough, we can now get out of the area just as the car starts to arrive. Perfect timing, perfect stealth, no traces. I love it when you can use D-Horse to do this kind of stuff. It is a bit of a shame that we had to get off him to pick up the film though, but you know, what are you going to do? And now it's time to rescue those kids. This is going to be really good. And by good, I mean absolute bollocks. The first kid is in Umfinda oil field, guarded by a helichopper and soldiers. But as we know, that's nothing that the big iron can't solve. The trouble is, when we have to get to the kid, he's too far into the room and D-Horse can't get in here, which means there's no way for us to push him outside. So we're going to have to get off D-Horse and pick up the kid ourselves. A fun thing about these missions though is that you can actually run away from the area and it will auto-Fulton the kids. You don't actually need the child Fulton upgrade, the game just does it for you. Quite interesting. The second kid is deep inside Code Talker's mansion, surrounded by loads of soldiers. We haven't really been that varied in our weapon selection, so this time around I thought I'd bring a bolt action sniper with me to pop all the dudes. Although I did purposely pick the low rank wooden one to keep in with that Old West theme, you know? And if we stay out of sight and out of range, we can actually just keep baiting these dudes to the mortar and they'll always come and run to this. It makes taking out this outpost incredibly easy. Although the final guy was a bit smarter than the rest because he didn't want to come out. But with some bait, he eventually came outside, and I let D-Horse get the final kill. But as we know from earlier, D-Horse can't get inside the mansion, regardless of which door you use. But if you do go to the front door, then the kid is just in the next room, so we're not off D-Horse for very long. Not ideal, but then again, none of these missions involving kids are ideal, are they? In general. Same thing again though, at least we get to run out of the mission and they get auto-Fultoned, which is nice. But now it's time for some real shite. These last three kids are in extremely awkward positions. The first kid is in Quiet's area up in a tower. Now as we know, the Fulton launcher doesn't work on kids, even if we have the child Fulton upgrade. So if we hit him with anything, we have to wait for the kid to get back up. And guess what? All of these kids are 10-minute knockouts as well. So, as you can imagine, this was a lot of fun. The initial hit of the Fulton launcher landed him on the lower ledge, so I was curious if we could then get him into a position where a knockback would knock him off the tower and onto the ground without him turning into pavement pizza. But as I was getting some more ammo for the Fulton, the kid ended up slipping off the side by himself and turning into mush. That's the one thing we didn't want to happen. So I tried again, and this time around he didn't slip off, so he got the hit and then he fell and landed safely. When you shoot people with a non-lethal blowback, they seem to not take fall damage. But now we just have the arduous task of pushing the kid out of the area. And as I say, 10 minutes per blow. You can imagine the pain. You know, if only they let you use the Phantom Cigar when you're on the back of D-Horse, then this wouldn't be so bad. But no, you can't. I imagine smoking Crystal Blue near a horse probably isn't a good idea, but you know, it would be a nice feature and you only need one hand to do it. Lucky for me, I had some very important videos to catch up on. Although I must say, about halfway through, we do get to push him past a guard post, so we get a very brief moment of joy. There's not many enemies here, but any chance we get to use the revolver and do some ramming is always welcome in my book. It was over quite quick though, which is something I'm used to. Genuinely though, this took forever. I even had to leave the game paused overnight and then resume the next day. It just took that long. I can't really tell how long this took exactly since there's no mission results screen, but eventually, after many hours, I walked ahead of the kid and all of a sudden it just said mission complete. However, his car was still on the floor and so was his marker. Maybe there's some potential creepypasta material here, or maybe we can be faux philosophical and say that the souls of child soldiers will always stay on the battlefield, regardless of where their body goes. War is an inescapable reality. The beast of man always resides within us all. Or it's a glitch. Kid number 4 is in La Marjate Palace, surrounded by guards. So I made sure our bullets found a new home. That was fun. But then, you know what we do. That's right. We need to push this kid out of the hot zone with the blowgun. So while it is fun to knock him off the ledge and watch him fall, it's another 10 minutes per blow. A brief moment of elation, followed by an eternity of agony. And we still have another kid to save after this. Kid number 5, thankfully the final child, is in a room in the cave surrounded by puppet soldiers. So at the very least we get to have a little bit of fun. But this kid is tied up, so we're going to have to be a lot more active and push him away from the wall with some blow-up dolls first. And once he's far enough away from the wall, we can then use our blowgun and push him out of the mission zone. Although I was expecting him to be pushed to the first checkpoint, if not the second checkpoint at the very least. But no, that didn't work. So I just had to keep pushing him and hope for the best. Honestly, I think I blacked out during this part because I cannot remember a single thing about it. It's just so mind-numbing. It was just hours of essentially nothing. It shows no skill, it shows no talent, it shows nothing we've not already seen. There's just nothing. It's inane in every sense of the word. Now, I can already foresee a comment from someone who's going to say, Klye, you uber dingus. You've already got off the horse loads of times and failed the challenge even from the start of the game. Why not just get off and put the kids on the horse? There's no reason to do it this way. This is just pure self-flagellation. And to that person I say, you're right. I agree with you 100%. I absolutely should do that. It is the smart thing to do, innit? Anyone with even a room temperature IQ in Celsius would recognise the absolute futility of this entire endeavour. It's completely pointless to do it this way. In fact, it's pointless to even attempt an immediately impossible challenge. Why would you do that? And yet, I still did. Because I'm a fucking mong. And after all that, the kids just disappear on a helichopper and they're never seen again. What a wonderful ending for so much time. If only we got the Kingdom of the Flies mission. But since we didn't, I like to imagine that the kids grew up, went to outer heaven as mercenaries, and then Solid Snake beat the piss out of them. V is the true Lord of the Flies anyway. I mean, look at him. It's not over yet though, because we still have some more missions to do. So, for mission 41, Proxy War Without End, we need to take out some armoured vehicles and a helichopper, which we can do in a couple of minutes with a rocket launcher. It's very exciting. Well, I suppose I shouldn't complain really, should I? It's a lot more enjoyable than spending 12 hours shooting a child. Well, after a few more side ops, we unlock mission 44, Shining Lights, Even in Death. But this takes place on Mother Base's quarantine platform, so once again, D-Horse isn't allowed here. We don't even get to wear our animal's fatigue or our scarf. We're stuck with olive drab. Absolute bollocks. D-Horse would have loved this mission as well. Ah well, at least we can ride him while we save the last few MSF soldiers and bring him back to Diamond Dongs. And once we do that, Huey Emmerich gets his trial. But because Metal Gear Solid 2 exists, Huey gets to live. For now. You know, I sometimes feel like there's more going on with Huey. Like the fact he's wearing Kojima's glasses. What's that about? Huey's always doing stuff that puts him and everyone else in danger and then just absolving himself of any guilt. But it just can't be that black and white, can it? Nothing ever is. But you know, as fun as it is to theorise all the potentials, especially given the fact that the game and the series in general is all about personal truth, you know, it's up to you yourself to form your own opinion, your own interpretation. Kaz even says in this very cutscene that Huey's going to tell a different story to the story we've just experienced. And that's always the case, isn't it? The real answer to every question in the universe is just whatever you want it to be. If you want to believe that Huey is just misunderstood and there's a lot more going on than what we see, that's perfectly valid. But I like to believe that Huey is just a mega twat. Speaking of truth, we unlock the final mission. Truth, the man who sold the world. But this is just a retelling of the first mission, the hospital escape, so once again, there's no D-Horse. Well, technically there is. He is in the mission, but it's during the very end scene when we see Big Boss and Ocelot, so if you really think about it, D-Horse has been there from the very start, all the way through, to the very end. Truly an amazing horse, indeed. So, can you beat MGSV while riding D-Horse? Not completely. Which might come as a surprise, even though I said at the beginning it's not possible. As was very self-evident, we have to get off him on occasion. But for the actual main bulk of the missions themselves, you can do almost all of them while completely on horseback. You only need to get off very briefly in a small handful of missions. It's honestly quite surprising how much you can do. And even more surprising is being able to use D-Horse himself to beat the missions. I'm genuinely impressed with him. And I'm also impressed with myself for not making a D-Horse, Horse D joke the entire time. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Obviously this took an extremely long time, but I love exploring MGSV and learning more about it. Even after all this time, regardless of how many challenge runs I do, I'm still learning new things. Even if those things push me to the verge of madness. But that's where all the good stuff is. Anyway, cheers for watching. Please do leave a like if you like and subscribe if you want to. Let me know any other fun or insane challenge runs you'd like to see. And as always, take care.